Yes, so we're excited to tell you about this new international but Australian-led investment in creating plant systems for space, and why and how strawberry is one of the 4 species that have been selected as ideal for enabling space habitation. So space travel is imminent. Within the next 15 years, so well within all of our lifetimes, there is a plan to put a crew on Mars. Before the end of this decade, there will be a lunar presence established, and at that point, this is going to allow test trips to Mars with the final aim of a habitat on Mars by 2040. So the challenge basically is that the distance that Mars is, the time it takes to get there, and the limitations of the weight that can be on spacecraft means that all the food that would supply travel and a visit to Mars is not possible to carry. And so we rely on the amazing ability of plants, and Sabine showed us the perfect equation there of their ability to convert sunlight into energy and sugars and a range of other products, as well as producing oxygen, which is the primary input for all other food that we eat, including bacteria or yeast or other organisms that potentially could be taken. They all rely primarily on plants. But furthermore, plants provide us with that fresh food engagement where berries come into, as opposed to packaged food. They also can synthesize pharmaceuticals and medicines. And very importantly, in the case of berries especially, they provide us psychological benefits. So the actual presence of live plants is a very sought after aspect of these plant systems that we're creating for space for the human interaction and psychological benefits that come from being with plants. So at the same time as these innovations are happening to get to space, we have immediate and current ongoing needs for technologies that we expect will arise from the innovations that we're generating for the space travel. And from our perspective, specifically at the University of Melbourne, particularly in the context of strawberries, there's 3 areas that we're very focused on, and one is helping to enable this growth of the indoor agricultural sector. We're also focused on transferring the technologies of contained growth of plants to container growth systems and other systems that are starting to be put in remote communities. This is a container in remote Canada, and we are going to be working with Indigenous communities with the same efforts to get fresh food produce to those communities that also need it. And we heard in the first talk of the whole conference, the team that was on Antarctic, the one thing they missed was fresh food. And imagine if they had strawberries. I think they would have been very, very happy. So the concept is similar. And then finally, we have very high targets around the 100% recycling of water and resources and the plant products. Because in space conditions, for example, on the ISS right now, on the International Space Agency, they have a 95% water use efficiency of their systems. So they have very high achievement of recycling that we hope to learn from here on Earth. So in answer to the imminent space travel, the need for plants, and the potential of these innovations, the Australian Research Council funded a 7-year Center of Excellence in Plants for Space. Oh, sorry, just go back there for a minute. It's led by the University of Adelaide, 5 universities, and it started last year and will go for another 7 years. The purpose is to enable deep space exploration and to improve honor sustainability through plant and food design. The significant amount of funding is half from the Australian Research Council, about $35 million, and that is matched by a similar amount of in-kind through our partnerships. There are a lot of partners involved, international and Australian. Some noticeable partners include NASA, and this Center of Excellence with its partners is the single largest investment in plant systems for space travel, much larger than anything that NASA, for example, or the European Space Agency or our space agencies were already investing in. So this is a truly large and significant effort around developing plant systems and their technologies for space. There are 4 missions. Here you can see them here. And the one that I'm going to talk about today in the context of strawberry is the production of a zero-waste plant optimized for controlled environments. And this is our candidate. And there are a number of reasons that you're all familiar with, but slowly came to light to us as we were going through the various possibilities for different sorts of plants. I should mention that the other 3 are lettuce, you're not surprised, so a leafy green, tomato, which is already a dwarf tomato, Tiny Tom is already a type of tomato that NASA has identified, and duckweed, Wolfia, a very small aquatic plant. So strawberry would be the only fruiting plant, and it has some advantages even over tomato. So one thing I highlight, it has a very high potential edible index. The leaves of strawberry are edible. They don't taste very good, but they can be eaten as opposed to, say, tomato leaves. So we're starting from a very good base in terms of a high index of using the whole plant. It's compact, self-fertile. Very importantly, it can be propagated from seed and runners. And as I mentioned, these psychological benefits are very high on the list. So when astronauts have had surveys of the sorts of plants that they would like to be with in space, strawberry scores the highest. And there have been studies showing you spend 15 minutes with a strawberry plant, your heart rate will go down, and your cortisol level in your saliva will also go down. So if you're feeling stressed, go and visit a strawberry plant. And this is really important, you can imagine, in these sorts of environments more generally. And then finally, the high demand for innovative growth systems. We've seen some amazing systems across Tasmania. I'm amazed how many are not in soil anymore. And so the sustainability and the innovation interests of berry systems, strawberry systems, is very high. And here's the strawberry global market projection right here, and this is what we hope to feed into. So we have 3 traits currently that we consider to be important to build into a space strawberry. The first is to increase harvest index. Harvest index is one of 2 components of yield. The first component is to generate biomass, and the second component is the allocation of biomass into your harvestable product. We think that strawberry has some room for improvement in its harvest index. And that was interesting in our tours this week. when we heard that a part of the production system can be leaf thinning. So we aim to look at leaves and to see whether they're being used, are they developing optimally, and are they being used optimally such that we reduce waste leaves. We're also interested in increasing fruit yield and the quality of that fruit. In space, your taste senses are much reduced. So the flavor intensity is very important, that it's high, so we focus on that. And we're also very interested in regulating the development of runners versus fruits. Below ground, we see an important area in the increase in efficiency of the root system. More roots is not necessarily always a good thing because, of course, that has taken carbon from photosynthesis rather than going to yield in leaves. And this is smaller root system size has been a trend in grain crops that have been selected for yield and harvest index. So we're going to really look at the root size. Is it optimum? Is the architecture and types optimum? And is the physiology optimum for soilless systems? Here's just a note about harvest index. There are a few papers about strawberry harvest index. They're on the low side, and there looks to be a lot of genetic variation for improving it. So as I mentioned, we are entirely focused on soilless systems, and we are going to have soilless systems as the environment that we're targeting these new genetics to. The transition in systems for growing strawberries is very, very rapidly evolving. From this system here, which still exists in many conditions, has intensity associated with plastic and fumigants and some uncertainty with climate. Thus the move to the raised beds, substrates, and the ability to much more predictably control yield maintenance. Here is a vertical farm image in Dubai, so the transition from this condition to here. And here are some standing hydroponic systems which simulate kitchen garden systems that have been used in NASA's Mars dune habitat so far. So we're really focusing down at this end, so probably in this end right here, in terms of the environment that we're targeting the strawberry to. From a space perspective, NASA has been growing strawberry. Here you can see a NASA scientist with an octoploid strawberry. In this case, they've been focusing on the cultivar de Liz, which is actually something that people can buy here in Bunnings, and we've been growing it alongside the germplasm that we're developing. Here's one of their growth chambers. Here is one of NASA's actual advanced plant habitat systems. So this is the sort of highly monitored and automated system that the strawberries can be grown in. But here is an example of another type of habitat that's already in development by the private sector, Sierra, which is crafts that are enabling deep space travel and arrival where the plant systems are integrated in where the people are living. So our model with strawberry, it really is a plant that suits being very closely integrated, and the humans are very integrated into growing the strawberries. It's a cohabitat. We're aiming at a cohabitat between the strawberries and people for these systems. Root systems are the ones that are probably the most strongly modified by this transition to field to controlled conditions. That's highlighted very simply here by a root system that's come out of a standing hydroponic system of strawberry versus a root system that I've harvested from soil. The architecture is very different, so we're really interested in the allocation to different branch root types, which look to be different. These types, every root type on different plants has different transporters and functionalities. So just like shoot above ground traits have their own genetics and functions, this is same for root systems. So we want to optimize the root systems for these soilless conditions. I'm very interested in hearing about the oxygen bubbling. Low oxygen is a problem once you get into lower gravity situations because the water tends not to move away from root systems. So we are very conscious of the importance to incorporate tolerance to low oxygen conditions, or possibly incorporate treatments into the the root zone. And then finally, salinity, the use of recycled water, is something that we're targeting, tolerance to salinity, different salts, and we know these transporters exist in other species and can be incorporated potentially through genetics. So the third trait is using waste as additional byproduct streams. So as I mentioned, leaves can be eaten. So we are looking at alternative uses for leaves, stems, and potentially roots. The leaves have higher phenolic, so potentially higher nutritional value, even to the berries. So even using them as they are, or using advanced genetics to increase and modify the composition and the flavor of the leaves so that they are a second valuable product. So how are we doing this? Well, what we've decided to do is to go back to one of the 4 diploid progenitors of the garden strawberry that we have today. So today we have an octoploid strawberry. That's what we see growing. These are the combination of 4 diploid strawberries, including this Frigeria vesca, this alpine strawberry. This alpine strawberry, through genetic sequencing, is known to contribute the most to the octoploid strawberry. So it has the strongest genetic similarity to the octoploid, so we expect the genetic information to be highly relevant to people working on octoploid strawberries, but we have all the benefits of the simpler genetics. But it has higher sugar concentrations, according to some studies. They're very sweet, and potentially higher antioxidant activities in their berries. There is also a lot of genetic variation in the vesca, in the alpine strawberry, and we've made a collection of 10 from the US so far at the University of Melbourne, with variation in fruit color, fruit size, and potentially other properties. And these will be the sorts of other phenotypes that we will look for variation in those natural populations to have a good starting base for future genetic manipulation. We've established a transformation platform so we can transform the vesca in our group now, used from tissue culture. We adapted an existing protocol that was in the literature, and we've gone on to continue to improve it. And here in this image, you can see some roots and a berry that are expressing an Arabidopsis ubiquitous promoter with the blue turquoise fluorescing protein. So we can completely transform vesca and now proceed to knock out through CRISPR or modify other genes. We are focused on a highly organ-specific modification of genes, and so we've started to assemble a gene promoter library, and we have strawberry root-specific, receptacle-specific, and axillary meristem-specific promoters now in our lab, and we've started to test them. So the key message is that we have a 7-year investment at least, starting in strawberry for space and earth improvement. We expect this is going to lead to discovery science for the octoploid strawberry, other berries, and their modification. We also very focused on the technologies for controlled environment growth of strawberries, and we will be generating new genetic diversity, specifically for soilless systems. And we're really keen to partner with growers and industry. We're really looking forward to the industry forum tomorrow morning. We don't have any industry partners, or any partners actually, so apart from our own center. And so we've really enjoyed the meeting, and we hope to work further with the people we've met. So I'd like to thank these people, especially Berries Australia, Angela Atkinson, and Scott Matner took us around a couple of years ago, around Tulangi, and we're really excited to be here today.